Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Funny enough, we haven't had power all day, and so I was like, I'll just use my hotspot for this interview. And then the power came on at like 2 p.m. and 30 seconds. So
Oh, wow.
I'm like, wow, the universe knew that I had an important interview that I wanted to go well with no technical difficulties.
That's
Although
awesome.
funny enough, I'm still on my hotspot because it's better than the Wi-Fi for some weird reason. So um
Well, I'm glad we're here.
yes, and it's so great to talk to you. I've heard a lot about you, and I really love everything that you stand for. I think you illuminate a lot of important messages. And what I think is so unique about your story is you kind of had these words of wisdoms or these self-realization moments, self-actualization when you were much younger. You started writing in your journals and whatnot when you were a lot younger than like I would have ever done that or been able to comprehend these, kind of deep-rooted issues. So I was just wondering, could you kind of elaborate on that? Because it's super powerful.
Um, yeah, I think it definitely had a result that came from where I was raised and where I grew
Mm-hmm.
up. Being raised in Dallas, Texas, you see a lot from a young age that it's very blatant and in front of your face. That when I moved to California, I feel like there's a lot more underlying things and people, they act like it's very liberal, and it is on some level, but therefore there's a lot of things people don't address. Whereas in Texas, it's extremely Republican and extremely right wing, and conservative people and these certain types of individuals will just say stuff, and you hear things from a young age. And I was deeply affected. I was a sensitive child, so I was very deeply affected by the things that were going on around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I internalized a lot of that, and it didn't sit right with me. A lot of things that I saw going on in the world, and also a lot of the misogyny that I grew up around in Texas, not from my father. My father's amazing. He is born.
Clarifying.
I just want to say for the record, my dad is incredible. He is from Italy, but he is the sweetest, most amazing father. I really, really lucked out. But being in Texas, you are around a lot of the guys, you grow up with, and the people that you are, the attitudes of them. It just never sat right with me. So I was always very upset at what I was seeing and the things around me. And I was a sensitive child, and I vocalized that. And I think that made, when I was young, it would make me cry, and I would, get upset with people, and people didn't quite understand it. And when I was older, I learned how to channel that into things, because that's what you have to do. You have to start to take the energy and utilize it for something to, hopefully do some good.
Very true. And it's interesting. I grew up in California and I've heard things here and there, but I didn't realize in Texas how much it really is in your face. And a lot of kids, I mean, including myself, I'm sure if I heard something that was out of line, I wouldn't think much of it. I would just be like, oh, I guess that's how it is. But we don't want to settle for that's just how it is. And you kind of were like, we're not going to do this. And so,
Mhm.
again, it's so powerful that you realized at a young age that you don't need to conform to what other people are saying or just be like, oh, yeah, nothing I can do about it. So, that also has, oh,
Been
go ahead.
loud. I've always been loud.
No, I love it. It's so important. And I think kind of the idea of breaking down boundaries and not conforming to specific ideologies that unfortunately are still very present in America, as much as people like to say everything's better. It's just not.
It's so, you know, and we need to be like vocally angry and upset, and we need to be speaking out about it. And especially as like white people, we need to be doing things and saying things and having hard conversations with I've had so many hard conversations with friends and family members from Texas and different, people in my life that I've had to have, I've always been having hard conversations, but now the conversations are even more in their face and even harder. And they have to be had, like
Mhm.
it's a lot, but it's like, imagine what people who actually are having to experience this day every day are having to feel. It's like, for me, the least I can do is try to have these hard conversations with people and try to like shed some light, on them so that they can hopefully see some knowledge and then spread that, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, we experience 1%, I would say, of the maybe less, honestly, of the
Now, when you experience nothing compared to
uncomfortability.
what people of color experience in this country,
Yeah.
And I'm a queer person, but I, for all intents and purposes, unless I tell you that, you're not going to know,
Mhm.
and I'm a white girl, and it's like the way I grew up, I didn't have a bunch of struggle. So it's like, even as a queer person, it's like, I'm not trying to like claim some struggle on that end. My coming out experience wasn't some hard experience. I kind of just told people just, it was kind of just like, I'm dating a girl, and people were kind of just like, no one was really shocked, you know? So but I have friends that have had traumatizing and terrible experiences, and they really had, you know, and so, you know, people need to be aware of that and the intersectionality within things, and really about the reality of actual struggle versus what people think is a struggle, you know?
Exactly. And I love the idea of intersectionality. It's almost like, the way I explain it is, society seems to think that we have these check boxes, and once you check off one, it's like you can't be anything else. So if you're already queer, if you're also someone of color, it's like, whoa, that's too far. And that is obviously a disgusting way to think, but I feel like that is kind of what society is deeming on us, and that's partly why so many of these issues have not been addressed in a way that is effective or has actually promoted change. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of
Yeah,
how
it does. And what queer people of color have to endure is tantamount to, I would say, anything else, you know, because because there's so much that they're having to overcome and go through, and just to live their daily lives, like just to wake up and walk out and go do things. And that's not fair, you know, like your life shouldn't have to be a political statement because of the, you know, if you don't want it to be, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not okay. If people just existing as a political statement because it has to be because of the state of where we're at. And that's got to change, because people should be able to live their lives.
I've never thought of it like that, but I think that's a perfect way to explain it. Like, it's almost like we're becoming these case studies, and it's not working because it's not promoting change, unless someone is, of course, doing it in a way that is effective and efficient.
Well, more what I'm saying is that people just exist, waking up and existing. They like just their existence is a political statement, because the world is, because of what's fighting against them, what they're having to fight against to live on their daily lives. Whereas you and I just wake up and put on our outfit and go out, and we don't have to worry about being killed for the color of our skin, and we don't have to be worried about being attacked for being a femme presenting gay man, and we don't have to worry about, you know, being ostracized or treated a certain type of way because we're trans. You know, we don't go through that, you know, but there's people that they wake up every day. And so if you a trans person of color, it's like they are waking up every day, and this is, you know, there's things they're going through just to walk down the street, just to exist, they're having to deal with. That is not all right. Their life is like a political statement all the time, and that just existing as a political, it's they're making a statement just walking out on the street, and it's because of where the world's at. Mm-hmm. You know, you shouldn't look at a, you know, individual, you know, and have to think like, oh, they're going through so much. Like I want everyone to be able to walk out on the street and not have to feel that feeling, to just go out and live their lives and feel free and love, and not worry about stress of what society is going to put on them just because of who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, by the way, for clarifying what you meant, because I was a bit confused, but you explained it perfectly the first time. My brain just was not.
No problem. That's why we're here, you know.
Exactly, and also I think it's important that when someone does not understand, you kind of explain it another way, and you did that. So thank you again for not shutting me down, but rather explaining.
Oh, of course.
I think that's part of progress. It's a big part of progress. And what's going back to something you said at the very beginning of the interview, how you're now in California, and you obviously have very liberal ideas. California is overall a very liberal place. I had a friend who grew up in Texas, and she said it felt like she had to come out as liberal there. So I'm just wondering if when you go back, you have any of that same experience. I thought that was like, wait, what?
I mean, I understand, because if you grow up in a very conservative family, then yeah, definitely, it's almost it's I wouldn't compare it to coming out in that same respect at all, but because it's an entirely different thing. But I see what the comparison that's being made, in the sense that for their family, it's like such a shock, because the way the world is there is totally different, you know. And the way that, you know, kind of the ideologies, the way people think. But for me, I was always extremely liberal. I was a total little punk rocker from like middle school on, and I was wearing like my Doc Martens and, you know, putting chalk in my hair when I wasn't at school because I would get kicked out of school if I dyed my hair, and, you know, setting up my thrift store outfits. And we were super, you know, we were like this super anti-racist, anti-fascist, like the system punks, still am, by the way. And yeah, so we were just always like that. I was talking about, I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 on August 9th. I don't know if you know that about me. Shocking everybody. Nobody knows that about me.
Gosh, wow.
I know. So I grew up in Texas and it's still not very much different. So, when I was there, it was like everyone was talking about global warming. It was just the start of hearing about what they call global warming before it was switched to climate change. And I would be talking to my dad about it in like 5th and 6th grade. I was like very emotional and very upset about what's in it. They were all kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it wasn't until like high school people in Texas started to really talk about it. But it's still like there are people still there that deny climate change in Texas, like still to this day with all the science. And the same type of people that say you shouldn't wear masks. And they probably think the earth is flat. But, there's a lot of levels to it. So, I mean, I've always been extremely vocal and extremely liberal and extremely like all of these things. It's just kind of it was just embedded in me from who I was.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's so important, and it feels like you're this like beacon of hope for other people, maybe around your age or older or younger, really anyone who kind of grew up in a conservative area and they kind of just let it go because they felt, well, I can't do anything about it. And you, again, since a young age have been able to not conform to these ideals that unfortunately a lot of people still hold. And that seeps through into your music as well, because your music, it obviously, oh, sorry, as I told you, we just got power, so the faucet is like spazzing out. Second. I will be right back.
No problem.
Okay, sorry about that. I guess even when everything seems to be working, there's still a technical difficulty outside of the laptop itself, but I think we're good. Yeah, so I just, as we were saying, I think it's fascinating that the whole idea of just doing you and not really caring about what other people think or what the bigger system thinks is not just something you hold true in your day-to-day life, but also in your music. So and this is a hard-hitting question, so don't feel like you have to like answer right away, but out of all the songs that you've released, which one do you think is the one that you think you would have most wanted to hear like maybe 10, 15 years ago when you were still possibly struggling with, can I say this? Can I speak up about this? If that makes sense.
That would be Bad Things, like the single that just came out, because it is something that, hold on, my doggy wants to say hi.
Oh
Hi, 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 hello. This is so fun. He likes to make appearances.
Thank you for the cameo.
But Bad Things it was difficult for me to write, even at, we wrote it like last summer sometime, probably like last August, I think we wrote it, or September, maybe the early fall. And it was difficult even to write then. I wrote it with the co-writer Brendan Colbain, and we were talking about different things I wanted to write about, and he asked me straight up, is there anything, that you're struggling with at the moment? And I had a friend recently that kind of gave me a lot of crap about, being like so openly bisexual and blah, blah, blah. And, because they had grown up, and had a very hard time coming out and didn't have as easy an experience as I did and whatnot. And I think there was some resentment held there, and I don't blame that person for that, because I can understand that. I can't understand what they went through, but I can have compassion for what they were telling me at the time. And so when Brandon said, what would you, and I was like, I'm kind of struggling with, I feel like there's people in the gay community that don't really accept you completely because you're bi or pan, you know what I mean? You're pansexual, bisexual, because, they don't want you to, it's like, how gay are you? Or, like, really are you, are you just doing this for clout or, or attention? Or there's just so many different, I've heard so many different things from different people. Like, and then on the other side, like, I've had friends that are straight that I knew for years, like, I was a girl I don't talk to anymore, because we went on a vacation, and we used to all just like share the hotel room type thing, and she was like, oh, I need to get my separate room from you, because like, when I like, once she knew I was like openly out and stuff, it's just like, girl, I'm not gonna hit on you.
That's
like,
not how it works.
Yeah, it's like, just gonna be the girls, and also like, how narcissistic do you have to be to assume that you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I like you, like, there's a lot of layers to that. But so when I talked to Brandon, I was like, I really want to write a song that speaks to that kind of feeling ostracized by both sides, so you don't really fit in on either side, and also you're a novelty in the straight community because people are like, oh, you like girls make out, like stupid shit like that. I mean, I still hear stuff like that from guys at my age, and I'm like, are we really, it doesn't change, like
Oh
there's
my
just,
gosh, I thought it would. I guess.
oh, no, sorry, there are still, I mean, there's obviously good humans out there, but there's a lot of the same that, and they just grow up to be older than they were, but with the same mentality because they don't
No more
grow.
maturity tagged onto that.
Yeah, they don't grow, so you got to grow. So, I mean, I feel like Bad Things is the most important song that I could have written and have written to date because it touches on that kind of place where a lot of people that are bi, they feel biphobia, they don't really feel accepted,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really do understand what you're saying about feeling ostracized or marginalized from both groups, because what I've noticed, and this is just from what I've heard, what I've read, what I've studied, a lot of times it seems like when one part of the LGBTQIA community is making progress, another part gets left behind. It's almost like the progress that is made further divides the community because it's not moving everyone forward.
Well, that's intersectionality, really, why intersectionality really matters, and understanding intersectionality. And I think that's really important in the queer community, like the intersectionality. And I think that I see it a lot more in the younger queer community, like than I do in the older queer community, because I have friends from both ends, because I'm in the middle, and the younger queer community is a lot more accepting and a lot more open, I would say, and that's beautiful. Like, I think Gen Z is amazing. Go Gen Z. I'm a millennial, awesome too. But I mean, they're very like open in different ways, and that's beautiful. So that gives me a lot of hope,
Mm-hmm.
to see like the younger. I'm like, yay, it's cute. I love it. We love to see it.
It doesn't faze them, which I love. I think it's great that like it's all they know almost. So it's almost like all they know is so opposite of what was all you knew back in Texas, all these, ideas. So I'm glad that at least with this next generation, what seems like a majority of them, all they know is actually good stuff and stuff that is going to move this country forward rather than bad stuff that is going to set us back in our old ways. So yeah, Gen Z, you guys are awesome. I'm on the cusp. I'm 23, so I'm a millennial. But yeah, I'll just let all the true Gen Zers take credit for this one. And whenever I do an interview with someone whose music goes beyond the typical, pop music we hear on the radio, or just like, honestly, just genre bending, whatever it may be, I like to ask, has there been any message that you've either received from a fan, a friend, a family member that just really stood out to you? Because when songs like yours are so deep and meaningful, I think it is going to speak to more people than just singing about love or something. Not love, but like love in a shallow way. I don't know.
Well, no, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I had a friend that messaged me a couple weeks ago and told me that they really, and I didn't even really know that I was this significant to them, which is, it just goes to show that when people need you, you should be there. And it's important to support people, even the smallest things, checking in regularly and really, just those types of things can really mean a lot to someone. You don't even realize it. Was just someone I regularly check in with and just see how they are. And I've been there for them for a couple of things they went through, and just like I would anyone else, And they messaged me and they're like, your music and you being there for me made all the difference in my life in the past year. Like, I don't know if I would be here or I would be in this where I am now. And now I'm like doing well. I'm thriving. I have a job. Like, you were so supportive and you never judged me. And I was just like, it hit me. I was like, because I didn't even think I really did anything. I just think I just did what anybody should be doing to be there for someone, you care about. And it really affected them. So it hit me. It's like, this is really powerful, like you got to really be careful with, you got to really pay attention and care for people, and also with fans and with having a platform, like it matters, like speaking, like, responding and having an attach, like in a relationship with your fans that goes beyond just putting out a song and not caring. Like, it matters and it affects people's daily lives, and that's huge, so it really, that kind of hit me, and I thought that was kind of amazing, and it's definitely made me more cognizant about what I'm doing, and continue to, gives me energy to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I know you have is it 5 singles that are being ready to
There's
release?
4 singles, and then
4.
an EP will be released, so there'll be another song. So there'll be 5 songs altogether.
Amazing. So would you say that because your songs are all pretty, deep and meaningful? I keep on saying deep and meaningful, but they really are. Does it ever feel like you have an obligation to stick to that, or do you also want to be like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna write about a random night I had out with friends, like nothing deep attached?
I mean, I have songs that are kind of about the random. I mean, I don't know. I guess I was gonna say "Friends for the Summer," one of my songs on my last EP, but it's also about deeper stuff too. 'Cause it's about like the deep relationships you have, and also like kind of like the shallow ones you let go
Mm.
through those kind of partying experiences. That is, I don't know. I just write about what I feel. I don't think about when I sit down. Like, there's sometimes you'll sit down with people you're co-writing with, and they'll be like, "Let's dig into certain stuff," and so I'll go there with them because I'm not afraid to go there, but most of the time we're just writing about stuff that I'm going through, and I'm naturally just a person that writes about my life. So I don't know if I ever will just write a party song. It could happen, but I'm
Well,
not ever just going to sit down to control a session with that. I don't want to control the vehicle. I want the creativity to lead us, if that makes sense. I feel like the
always,
best stuff from letting the creativity lead you as opposed to forcing it one way.
yeah, it does make sense, because I guess what I was getting at, what you just answered, is almost like, does it feel like a job or a pressure to write in a certain way with certain messages? But it seems like that's just kind of how your brain operates, how your pen flows when you're writing the lyrics. So obviously that will also make what you put out seem come across as more authentic. So it's a win-win-win in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, but I do want to talk about a big partier. I think he's a partier. I think Snoop Dogg, is he a partier?
I mean, I worked with him, and we did the song and we did the video. So I met him over the course of a few days, and he was the utmost professional, amazing. Like, he was awesome. Like, he walked into the room and he shook hands with every single person in the room, from like my assistant to like my makeup artist to like every single person I work with. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was like so nice. Like,
Mhm.
he was just a pleasure. He was really easy and a joy to work with. You're kind of taken a like in a good way. You're
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is like a legend. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And the way he kind of moves and does his thing, you can see he's a legend. I mean, you see why he's who he is. Like, he is just, and he made me feel so comfortable once the camera came on. He was like, we talked for a minute before, a few minutes, and just kind of planned it, not really planned, but we just kind of wanted it to be natural. And he was like, just follow my lead, just take my vibe. And I did. And everything just it was just really amazing. Like, it was really a dream of a day. Just lovely.
That's so cool. And also, I realized the way I said that question, I meant it to be like rhetorical, because I was talking about like how like your songs like aren't normally about like partying or those types of things. And so it made it seem like I was literally like trying to get the gossip on Snoop Dogg from you, and I promise I wasn't. I was more just Yeah, I was more just saying like, well, is he a partier? Because if so, like that would be like cool that you also worked with someone like on that sphere. So yeah, I just want to clarify that I wasn't meaning it like, tell me about Snoop Dogg. How much did he smoke?
Oh no. We might have had some fun after we finished on set.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
And
I
I
love
mean, of the cannabis creation people, okay, like, we were both advocates of cannabis and what it does for the body. Because I have Crohn's disease, so I'm an avid cannabis
it. Really.
enthusiast, and it's my medicine. So it actually like heals me. So CBD and cannabis are my friends. So, yep.
No, I'm a big enthusiast as well. I know I don't really look at that part, but I think we need to get past the idea of stoners or people who smoke a lot look a certain way, because I think that is also just a toxic way to think. Specifically for pain, I use topicals. So yeah, I think people are waking up to the benefits and seeing it as a medicine rather than something that people just use to get high. It's so much more than that. So thank
For
you.
sure. But I do have to say that there's a bunch of people incarcerated for marijuana that need to be released, and there's a bunch of people making money off of marijuana where it's legal in these states, and there's still people incarcerated in these states. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
discrepancy within that. And that is an issue, because I'm not going to sit here as a white person just talking about cannabis and just act like there aren't a bunch of people of color incarcerated for, cannabis use.
For
Well, I'm just,
cannabis use that they were
and
most likely given to by a white person.
yeah, and it's like there's a lot of issues there, like that need to be addressed. So I just wanted to say that so people just were aware of that.
Yes, no, thank you for being transparent. I think it's important that whenever we're talking about something that stems from some idea of, privilege that me and you have, that we also are recognizing that it's not like this for most other people.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again for reminding me to, address that. So I just had a couple more things. Of course, we talked a little bit about your upcoming 4 singles and then the 5th one for your EP. Is there anything else? Do you have any updates on that regarding specific dates, anything like that? Music videos that you want to plug?
Yes, we have the next single coming out on August 28th. It's called Tonight Can't Be the Last Time. I don't know if I'm actually supposed to be saying this, but yeah, but I just did. So I really love this song. I think y'all are going to love it as well. I don't want to give away anything, but a video will be to follow. And then after that, we will have more singles and more stuff all coming out through the fall. So this is going to be an exciting time.
Yes, an exciting rest of the year for you. And then the other thing I have also been asking artists in quarantine at the end of our interviews is just the idea that as an artist, you are, you're naturally a creative person. You want to write, you want to record, you want to film music videos, you want to do live shows. But at the same time, with having possibly more downtime than you normally would, do you ever feel like there's pressure to get a million things done? And if so, how do you navigate that to make sure this never becomes a job?
Yeah, I am so right there with you. Like there are days where it feels like there's an unsurmountable, because you want to do everything. You want to do this, you want to do that, you want to, you've got all these ideas because you have all this time, but you can't do 15 things in one day. You got to streamline, and then also like things fall through the cracks when you don't put the right amount of focused energy into one thing. So I definitely, I feel that pressure. I think that it's what's been good for me is I've been keeping a good schedule of, I'm working out like 3 to 4 days a week.
Oh, nice.
The mornings, like I'm forcing myself to like have the morning workout, so it gets your day going. For me,
it's so important. I need to get back on that.
Well, it makes, because then you've already worked out and you're like, okay, here I am, let me do stuff, because let me be productive, because your endorphins are already going. And I have Crohn's, so that's really important to keep the stress down. And luckily I have these releases that we held because it wasn't the right time, but now we have coming out. So I've been able to put my energy into that. So I think I'm in a unique position that a lot of people don't have that. So I do feel lucky for that I happen to have lined up songs where happen to be mixed and mastered before the quarantine started, because if they weren't done, then we wouldn't be where we are, we would have been home, everyone else, So I do feel a lot of pressure, but I do feel really lucky to be in the spot that I'm at the same time. Like, not the quarantine, it's obviously terrible, but that I happen to have music done and it lined up.
Definitely, and you won't have to push anything back since everything's done. So that I'm glad that you're still, on schedule, so to speak, for when you wanted stuff to be released and promoted and all that. Well, thank you again so much for your interview, and also for changing the time on me so last minute. I had to go. Yeah, my neighbor, she's like a gem. She cuts my hair. She asked for me to go water her plants. And I'm like, I can't say no to this woman. She's like a second grandma. So I really appreciate you being willing to change the time.
No problem.
Thank you. And lastly, do you just want to recap Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, any of that stuff? So that
you can find me at Layke Official everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon Music, like Apple Music, anywhere you can find the music or anything online. It's going to be Layke, because I spell my name Layke, Layke Official. So definitely find me, follow me, send me messages. I respond. You can also message me. I have a text message number up on my Instagram. You can message me and connect with me personally there. So that would be awesome as well. So text me.
I will sign up for that. Is it through Community?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I will sign up through that. I only ask if it's through community because I want to make sure it's not like a third, like another app that I've never used. Because
Oh no, it's community.
weirdly enough, I like to do background checks on the apps I use. So
That's smart though. No, that's really smart.
I guess so. It probably makes me sound like a grandma or mom, like a helicopter parent. But
well, I'm just saying, dude, you can never be too careful with your stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
that is true. That okay, good. I'm glad you understand where I'm
yeah.
coming from. Well, thank you again. And when it's safe to do so, I'd love to do something in person in LA. Maybe like
Amazing.
another follow-up interview. We can have another fun chat and talk about any updates and hopefully more updates on the progress that this country has made. Fingers crossed for that.
Thank you. And yeah, I would love to do that. That would be amazing. That'd be awesome. I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, we will schedule it for sure as soon as it's safe.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you.
Of course, great chatting with you too. And everyone be on the lookout for next single in 24 days. 23 by the time this is uploaded. 23, guys.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.